I really want to create a conversation around eating to support our hormones rather than to support our weight loss, because when we eat to support our hormones, I really think there's so many more benefits, because when your hormones are balanced, you are going to have a better libido, you're going to have more energy, you're going to have better moods, you're going to feel just like more vibrant, more confident in your body, you're going to feel like skin is going to be better, hair is going to be more healthy. So we have all the physical benefits, but then we have the emotional benefits, the energy benefits. So I'm like, let's stop focusing this attention on weight loss and let's get to hormone
health. Welcome to the Wild Flow podcast with me, Charlotte Puanto, certified cycle and feminine embodiment coach and shamanic womb guide. In this podcast, I'll share my wisdom and conversations with powerful change makers, thought leaders, and embodied teachers to invite you to live cyclically in flow with your menstrual cycle instead of fearing it, to heal menstrual shame and normalize womb wisdom and period positivity, and to step into your sovereign magnetic power to create and embody the change you desire to see in your world. Settle in to unleash your wild flow. Welcome back to Wild Flow. I'm so excited to share a new episode with you today, and we've got Madeline MacKinnon joining us to talk about food as medicine for hormone health. So I'd like to introduce you to Madeline. She's a passionate nutritionist with 10 years of experience helping women to recover from debilitating hormone imbalances. To pursue her mission, Madeline founded Natural Hormone Healing because she believes that women need a holistic day-to-day strategy to balance their hormone health and fertility without synthetic hormones or medications. Madeline is known for her popular hormone balancing cooking classes that she teaches live across Canada, where she lives. She's also supported women worldwide through her premier one-on-one online hormone healing coaching program and her online hormone nutrition school. In her spare time, you'll find her in a kitchen cooking nourishing meals, hiking or snowboarding in the Rocky Mountains, which sounds amazing. And she's also just released a book. It's called the Hormone Type Cookbook, and we're here to talk about this book because she's sharing a really helpful, practical, empowering approach to looking at nutrition for hormone health. And she goes really deep into it. So what she's really talking about is finding out what kind of hormone imbalances you might be experiencing beyond just kind of like, oh, well, I have these symptoms and I have, that happens and that happens, that we can start to learn when we're cycle tracking. But actually, what might that be suggesting underneath, like what's actually going on in your body? And she's got quizzes and tests that you can do to actually find that out if you want to get like a specific, diagnosis. But even more generally, she's sharing how you can actually use food as medicine and why food is such powerful medicine to resolve some of these imbalances and what the benefits of that are for long-term health and for all-round holistic health. I found it really interesting because I'm not a hormone specialist, and I hear and I see lots of people experiencing different physical symptoms at different parts of their cycle. And yes, that might be each person's individual experience of their cycle, but doesn't mean that it's necessarily something that we have to be putting up with, particularly where they're challenging or more debilitating. Madeline's actually sharing how we can understand, identify, and then resolve quite easily by ourselves a lot of these imbalances. So she's talking about the importance of egg health, regardless of whether you're interested in conceiving or not, and supporting progesterone and estrogen across the cycle, looking at adrenal health, and why we really need to be talking about food for hormone health, not diet culture and weight loss, and how harmful that has been, and why this is a much more powerful healing approach. She's sharing with us some of the different examples of hormone imbalances that people can experience and what that might look like. How she uses herbal moon brews and stews to support hormone health, but how we can also feed our families well to get all the nutrition that we need. So it's not just prescribed medicines for somebody with imbalances. It's like foundational health for hormone health as well. And she's also got protocols in there and foundational food as medicine tips for perimenopause too. So I learned quite a lot out of this. I thought it was a great conversation, and Madeline is lovely. So settle down, listen in, get a pen and paper for this one, because there's going to be things that you might be like wanting to take away, things to remember, like food ideas, herb ideas, and lots more besides. And I hope that you enjoy this episode of Wild Flow. Madeline MacKinnon, welcome to Wild Flow. How are you today?
Oh, I'm so good. Thanks so much for having me, Charlotte.
Oh, thank you for being here. I'm so looking forward to chatting with you and learning about all of the magic you're offering at the minute. So let's begin with a cycle check-in, as we always do. And for me, I feel like I just need to take a big exhale and sink back down to earth. I'll share mine first and then invite you to share yours, Madeline. So I'm cycle day 15 today, and I haven't ovulated yet. I'm expecting to in the next couple of days. And I feel like a balloon full of helium, like floating up, and I need to be tethered back down to the earth. I feel really like my energy is quite high and not very grounded, that full of enthusiasm and optimism and resilience and joy, which is really lovely. I quite enjoy that feeling, even though I'm much more comfortable feeling grounded. So yeah, it's sort of a process, a learning for me, I think, to feel okay in being less tethered, I think. And I feel good in my body. And just like my mind's a bit more operating a bit faster, which may be a good thing or maybe not a good thing, maybe catching up on my words a little bit. So that, in all of my authenticity, is exactly how I'm feeling today. And I would love to hear from you where you're at in your cycle, because I'm at such a peak, one pole of my cycle. I'd be interested to see where you are and how we're aligning too.
Yeah, I'm a little bit ahead of you. So I'm day 18, and I noticed a temperature rise 2 days ago. So I probably ovulated around day 15, 16. So I feel a lot different than what I did even yesterday and the day before. I'm feeling more of that inward energy. And I had a nap today. Even I had to have a lie down at 3 p.m. I was working like really hard all morning getting things done, and then I went in the shower and then just had a little lie down. And I felt like that was definitely typical that time in my cycle. So I'm just feeling like things are like slowing down. And I did start getting overwhelmed today too, because I had so many ideas a few days ago, signed up for a business program, did all of this. And then now I'm just trying to like slow it all down because I had so many ideas in that time of my cycle.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I love that, what you're saying about like your awareness of how even over the space of 24 to 48 hours, you're feeling such a shift in your energy and what you needed and like what's coming up for you and where you're wanting to kind of, you've maybe been sort of pushing or busy, and now you know it's time to back off that and drop down and let yourself have that nap.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really lovely to hear that, and I'm feeling like you're going to tether me a little bit, and maybe we're both kind of like ah in need of that today. And just to share as well with everyone that I think it's really interesting. We were just chatting before we press record. So I'm in Australia. We just changed our clocks a couple of days ago. It's cooling. The sunlight has got definitely more of a golden, quality to it. The sun's not as high with in the sky, and we are we're past equinox now, so we're definitely into the darkening next three months until we get to the winter solstice here. And right now it's mid-morning, so I'm in my busy, productive, brain switched on, like action stations time of my day. And we both have the moon, the same moon over us. So we are a couple of days from full moon. So that again, intensifying energy. It's a bit like the same time of day. If midday is like a full moon vibe, I feel like, we're on that rise, and where I'm at in my day is like in sync with the moon and with my menstrual cycle. So I feel like there's a lot of rising intense energy in those. And then the autumn is the one that's this slowing vibe. And you are in Canada. So tell us where in the world you are, what time of day it is, and what you're noticing seasonally.
Yeah, I'm in Calgary, Alberta, and it does feel slightly disorientated because it's almost 7 p.m. and it's bright already. And I think it's still going to be bright for another hour. So I have just this light coming in. So it doesn't feel like 7 p.m. like it did a month ago. And I do feel like once in Canada, it can get bright until 11 around the solstice where I am. So we just get very active at night here. So I'm totally fine doing this podcast at 6:37. I don't think I would be like a few months ago. It would have been tough in the evening when it was dark.
So interesting, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I think that's really, yeah, with that light until 11 o'clock at night, that must be so jarring. I mean, I'm from the UK, and we used to have, it would be light till like 10 o'clock, but I haven't lived there for so long now that I don't really remember how it used to influence me. And here we certainly don't get that in like midsummer. It's dark by 8. So yeah, I hear you. Like it's giving you that kind of extended window of productivity, which, can be helpful, but I guess also is something to manage as well, and just keep an eye on how. Yeah.
Yeah, both me and my partner, we're both finding we're just working later naturally from the light.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. I think this is, I think these kind of awarenesses, as we always talk about here, these seasons and cycles, and, it does impact us, and we do get disconnected, but so simple. And so we can just notice that, how that's impacting us, and maybe across the menstrual cycle as well. Like if you're in your summer and it's bright at night, you can feel like great. But if you're ready to have more inward time and it's still light at night, maybe that won't feel as good. So yeah, just interesting to note.
Yeah. I especially love the lighting at this time of year when we're around March and April. I find here the color of the sky, it looks different. It's this beautiful, vibrant blue, and just the lighting. I just get obsessed with those subtleties of lighting. I'm never used to notice it, but it's one of my favorite things to observe around the seasons. And it's just beautiful here at this time of year, even though it snows a lot and we have a lot of melting snow. So it does look quite gray, but then with the contrast of just the lighting, it makes you feel like it's spring here.
That's beautiful. So even when there's melting snow, you can see the light, and that is what reminds you that it's spring. Beautiful. Love that. Yeah. I love how the sun changes too. It's just glorious. Ah, beautiful. Well, so Madeline, share with us, for anyone who doesn't know you, about the work that you're doing and what brought you to be doing this with us.
Yeah, yeah. So what I do is nutrition specifically for hormone balance and menstrual health. I've been doing this work for over 10 years now. I was somebody that around when I was 20, I started getting really, really interested in nutrition. I was studying political science at
Mm.
university, and I just got so fixated on nutrition when I started learning about how nutrition could be a tool for healing and supporting the body with certain diseases. Got really, really fascinated about that because I was just coming out with this fresh mind, just, basically coming out of high school and thinking that things were a certain way. And I just remember feeling so shocked and betrayed by the medical system and society that there's people really suffering with a lot of health conditions and not learning about how they could use nutrition as something that could really help address it. So that got me really, really interested. Spent all my spare time at university researching nutrition. So then I realized, okay, maybe this is not for me. And then went to go to nutrition school. And then we're just really dove in, just decided this is what I want to do with my life and with my career, and I'm going to make it happen. And a couple of years in, I started getting interested in hormone health and women's health because of my own experience. I'll share a bit of my own experience, but also just noticing how many women out there were struggling with their hormones. Like so many people. I was working in a health food store at the time when I started my nutrition career, and it almost felt like everyone who came in was struggling with some sort of hormonal issue. And then I started to develop some hormone issues myself. And my issue was PMS. There was a time where it started just getting worse and worse and worse, where the 2 weeks before my period started, I would just have really, really sore breasts, like where it would like hurt to climb the stairs. And just, I felt so overwhelmed, like just everything was setting me on edge. I would say I was experiencing anxiety at that time too, just overwhelmed. Didn't feel like myself. It was like that second half of my cycle. I didn't feel like myself. And then I had a firsthand experience of starting to experiment with some different things to address it. So I looked into some estrogen detoxing supplements. I took those, did some changes with my nutrition. And within 1 month of doing those protocols, I had a period that just showed up, but showed up in like a good way where I didn't have any PMS symptoms anymore. And I was just shocked because I started to get used to it and I thought it was normal. And realizing that, okay, you can go from really intense life-altering symptoms to then having a period that just showed up, that got me really interested in really helping more clients around that, around a lot of menstrual health conditions and hormone conditions.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that you had the period that just came. And I love it when women say that. They're like, oh, where did you come from? None of that da 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 kind of those onset of symptoms and experiences that are just so hard to handle. And, like you say, you just weren't yourself for that 2 weeks beforehand. So it would start at ovulation and then just kick in and get worse till you bleed. And then did you have a break? Like, was it a relief when you had your period? Did it ease?
Yeah, I remember
normally?
always liking the feeling of having my period because I felt a sense of relief, just this relief around it. It almost can be euphoric at times when it's like, especially when you're feeling that intensity of PMS and then everything, it's like that full surrender and release. It feels, it felt really euphoric.
Yeah. Oh, that's great because I think a lot of people, the period gets a bad rap, doesn't it? And I think for a lot of people that can be the toughest time if there's, pain and heavy bleeding and other symptoms associated with actual menstruation. But it can be different. There can be other parts of the cycle as well that people really struggle with. And actually having a period can be, like you say, euphoric, like a relief, a
Mhm.
release. So yeah, I think it's really interesting to note. And the symptoms that you were having, with under the sort of banner of PMS, so it was sore breasts and overwhelm and just not feeling like yourself.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
those were at that time, those were the most intense symptoms for me. Just
mm,
those three. The
mm,
breast pain is really interesting. And ever since then, I haven't had breast pain. It's
mm.
really interesting. It was like consistent for a few years and it just went away.
Wow, that's really incredible in a month as well. So, so you took supplements, made changes to your diet, and
Yeah.
that supported you really quickly to be freed of
Mhm.
those symptoms
Definitely.
and that
Yeah.
experience.
And
That's brilliant.
and that yeah, no, it's not going to be a month for everybody. I think I was quite lucky with how it just worked really fast for me.
Mm,
But I do think after a couple months, it is possible once we can really get to the root of those issues. So PMS is one of my favorite things to work with clients on. And I love helping and hearing from my clients just how they also had these periods that just showed up, and even
mm,
clients coming to me who've had like really had their doctors treating them with depression and having their PMS go away after we really got to the root of it. So get super passionate too, just about hearing people's experience, because it can be very horrendous for
mm,
women, where it's like there's half of your cycle, half of your life, you don't feel like yourself. It's a
mm.
very serious thing to be dealing with month after month.
Totally. Yeah, thanks for affirming that for anyone listening who's
Mm-hmm.
thinking it's normal or they're stuck with it. There's hope. So
Mm-hmm.
you're a nutritionist, as you've said, and you help
Yes.
women through changing their diets and using food as medicine to heal hormone imbalances. And I guess like the first question that I'm really curious about, and from your perspective, is like, where have we gone so wrong with diets that we are getting to these, and maybe not just with diets as well, but with the food that we eat, but how have our hormones got so imbalanced,
Mm-hmm.
where we're not getting what we need for optimal hormone health? And then
Yeah.
what's your approach to this?
Mm-hmm. I love that question. I think there's many areas where we've gone astray and wrong when it comes to nutrition. I think one of the biggest concerns when it comes to nutrition for hormone health is dietary trends, and especially how focused nutrition has become on weight loss. And even though I do think the conversation is shifting a lot more, I notice that for me as a nutritionist, a lot of the time when I go out into the world, I tell people I'm a nutritionist and they instantly ask, "Oh, you help people lose weight. Maybe I can send you to my sister, or I'll refer my sister to you." And I'm like kind of shocked because I'm like, I don't focus on weight loss. It's become so ingrained that we think weight and nutrition together. And I
Mm,
think that all the dietary trends that have really gone around this goal of losing weight, I think is first and foremost what is causing a lot of hormonal harm when it
mm.
comes to for so many people out there.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
that's fascinating. So like diet culture's become, it's been around for a few decades,
Yes.
and it changes, like you say, with new fads coming in. But we're really focused, aren't we, about having this like ideal body shape, but actually that body shape might not be healthy.
No, yeah, a lot of people still struggle with their hormones
Mm,
when even not being on that perfect like bodybuilding calorie restrictive diet. Those sometimes are those people that actually can struggle the most with their hormones.
mm,
But I really try and take a balanced approach when it comes to food, because I get so skeptical about so many dietary trends because, for example, ketogenic diets are there have become like more of the recent craze over the last few years. And being on a low carb diet doesn't actually help hormone health, and it can actually cause a lot of damage to people's hormones. Not always long-term damage, but I've talked to so many different people out there who've done keto diets and lost their periods, like had adrenal issues come up, thyroid issues come up, because we really need carbs are actually really beneficial for hormones when you have them in the right amounts. So there's the keto spectrum, and even different like plant-based raw food diets. Those can also lack certain nutrients that we need to support our hormone health. So all these ends of the extreme, we need to be very wary about them, because like when I really want to create a conversation around eating to support our hormones rather than to support our weight loss, because when we eat to support our hormones, I really think there's so many more benefits, because when your hormones are balanced, you are going to have a better libido. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have better moods. You're going to feel just like more vibrant, more confident in your body. You're going to feel like, skin is going to be better. Hair is going to be more healthy. So we have all the physical benefits, but then we have the emotional benefits, the energy benefits. So I'm like, let's stop focusing this attention on weight loss and let's get to hormone health, because it's just so much better.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all of that. I think it's such an important conversation to have. And, I think that there's just not an understanding of, if somebody's like wanting to lose weight as well, like, if you address the hormones, that can support that in a,
Yes.
whereas
and support your metabolism.
Yeah. So you've just released a book, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I have it up right here. I know we're in audio, but I'll show you my book.
I can see it. It looks gorgeous.
And that was the first part of the book. In the first section, I talked about let's stop focusing on weight loss and let's focus on hormone balance. It was that first part, because I really think it's the biggest foundation when it comes to nutrition, is just simply eating enough calories in a day. And so many women are just undernourished. They're just not getting enough nourishment from their food, because we're always thinking about under eating. And that's the thing. If somebody is like chronically under eating, that's usually the first thing, even before we get into the details. I'm like, let's just get your body nourished and get you eating really good, nourishing food at adequate calories.
Yeah, right. Okay. So the foundation before we go like any further, it's get the right calories, get the right nutrients, like cover the foundational bases in in that way, get that in.
Yes.
And then like what your book's about, it's one of the things you're focusing on is eating for different hormone types. So I'd love to ask you to explain that more to us. So, like what are the hormone types that you're talking about? What does that mean? And then, beyond like this kind of foundation that you're talking about, like for depending on what someone's experiencing, how specific do we need to get with food as medicine? Like if you went to the doctors and you were like, I've got these symptoms, they'd kind of diagnose you with whatever and give you like a prescribed whatever, protocol. Like, is it like that? Do you see it like that as well for eating for hormone health? Just talk to us about what these hormone health types are, and then how we might know which one we are, and kind of what your approach is through food. Big question, but I hope that's okay.
Definitely. I love all those questions. So essentially what I talk about in the book is I talk about the 7 different hormone types. And essentially what that means is they're the 7 most common hormone imbalances that I see so many people struggling with. So they are high estrogen, low progesterone, low testosterone, low estrogen, which I also consider more of that menopause range, low androgens, which is more with PCOS, and adrenal issues, which can be either high, low, or dysregulated cortisol, and then thyroid. I think I covered all of those 7 there. Those are the 7 most common types. And what we can do first off to build awareness around what hormone type we may have is first off looking at symptoms, looking in so I've in the book, at the very beginning of the book, I have a quiz. I have a hormone quiz where you can just fill it out and see which one of the most common, like what makes most sense. If you have more than 3 in any of the categories, it could indicate that you might have a hormone issue. And the quiz and doing symptoms are always a good start. I can, if you want to really confirm, I do have resources on how you can test to know exactly what you're struggling with, but the symptoms are a great roadmap to just know that there might be an issue there. So that's always a great way to start. And then from there, I have a chapter for each hormone type that you can go through. And the chapters really do a deep dive on that particular hormone imbalance. And we really talk a lot about how to eat to support that hormone imbalance, because the thing that I don't see a lot of people talking about in the mainstream, but there's so much science on it, is that your body requires different nutrients to build and detox all of your hormones. So, for example, your thyroid needs selenium, it needs iodine, it needs vitamin A, it needs magnesium, it needs all these nutrients to run properly. So if we eat foods that are really rich in those nutrients and we have our just everything lined up to support that hormone imbalance, then it can be a therapeutic tool to really help us feel better.
Yeah, okay, that's brilliant. I love that you're doing this quiz, and then so people can go and see, like, what their specific like help people to work out what their experience is and what there might be what might be going on for them in their body, and then understand and learn about it, and then like work out what foods they can eat as medicine for that. And one question or one point I would kind of just love to invite you to speak on is, like, why food as medicine when there are so many supplements these days that we can just go and take?
Oh my gosh. The thing with supplements is that food is always going to be better, because nutrition, when you eat food in its whole form, you're getting all of the nutritional cofactors to properly take in and assimilate the nutrients. So, for example, if we were to take a zinc supplement, that can actually deplete our copper, which can cause a lot of issues. Like it can cause us to actually stop absorbing iron properly if we become copper deficient. And so that's just one example there. And it's so much better to have food that has zinc, because some of my favorite zinc-rich foods like oysters, liver, or even just red meat, these foods have all the nutrition is so balanced out with the copper and the zinc and the B vitamins. So I think since I've been in this world of like natural healing and nutrition, I've been in this world for, I suppose it's been 13 years, maybe longer. I've seen so many supplements and just things that we think are healthy come out as not good for us. And so I've become more and more skeptical. So I'm really in a place where, it's just so much better to rely on food, because it's been time tested over generations, because you never know, even though something has some research behind it, if it's only been around for like 100 years, I don't trust it as much either.
That's really interesting. Thank you. And I think that's such a good point. And, I kind of asked that as something like, I had a sense of like what your answer might be, but like realizing, like, I didn't know that zinc did that, for example. And I love the point about the cofactors in the food.
Yeah.
like the things that help absorption and help the detoxing, and it works together like as nature intended, right? So
Definitely.
yeah, I think that's a beautiful point and something to be mindful of.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
you
I
know
think writing this book just solidified that further for me, because just through writing the book, I was looking at research and just doing so many deep dives into each hormone. And it just became so clear just from learning everything that it does make so much sense to use food as the foundation. And
mm,
it's so much more sustainable for people too, because we have to eat food every single day. And why not just make it really nutrient dense and get most
mm,
of what we need from food? And supplements do have their place. I will use specific supplements when I'm working with clients privately if we really want to target something. But I much prefer using herbs for that rather
mm.
than a mineral complex or a supplement complex.
Tell us about that. Tell us about how you use herbs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love using herbs. I especially like using them for, like, you can use them for boosting and supporting certain hormones. So one that you might have heard a lot of people talk about, Vitex or chasteberry. That's a really popular herb that's really great for anyone that has lower progesterone. So we can use that to boost up the progesterone levels. Herbs work very well for low testosterone too. There's a lot of really excellent herbs that can boost testosterone
Mm,
levels, but they do it in a way that's very intelligent. It's not the same as taking a drug or taking a bioidentical hormone. Usually it's very harmonizing. And a lot of these herbs, they end up working on our adrenals as well, because usually a lot of our hormones can be in trouble more when we're struggling with adrenal issues too. So even
mm.
low testosterone could be related to cortisol, adrenal hormones, and stress. So they work with on a very like deep level. There's a lot of layers to herbs. I could talk about it
Mm,
for a long time about herbs. I love using them for like heavy periods too. They can be
mm.
really effective when you take these tonic, astringent herbs over time as well to target, yeah, different menstrual issues too.
Beautiful. I'm sat here drinking a herbal tea that I've made my own little
Mm,
blend. And I'm trying to rack my brain now of like what I put in it because I
yeah,
made a
what's in
huge
it?
thing. Well, I'm trying to remember. I think there's some fennel and licorice, and there is some mugwort, and there
Mm,
is some, I can't remember now. There was a whole bag of things. I've completely like it's just gone. But I've made this concoction. I went to the organic store and picked out some
yeah.
did some little reading on things that were like good for supporting my sort of menstrual health, and made up a little brew. But I just sort of have it and it like every now and again, and it just kind of it feels like a really beautiful nourishing tonic. But like I know I don't know that much about herbs, so I've kind of gone off little bits that I've read and
Mhm.
learned. But I'd love to hear from you, because you've mentioned to me that something that you love to do is make like moon teas, menstrual teas
Yes.
yourself. Like what would you
Yeah.
put in something?
Oh, yes. I love, a while ago, I had a course called Eating for Your Cycle, where we talked about eating for the phases of the menstrual cycle. It was the first online course I created. And I had this concept that I decided to call it a moon brew for your teas that
Mm.
you drink when you are on your period. So we called it a moon brew. And then I also had all these stew recipes that I would call moon stews. And I would had the recommendations were during your menstrual phase, you have your moon stews and your moon brews. And I like the recipes had like a really delicious, like more like shellfish, like clam chowder type, like dairy-free recipe with coconut and like a black
Yeah.
rice porridge. There's some really good recipes in that course. Some of the recipes did filter through to the new Hormone Type cookbook, actually. I'll have to share which ones those were, but
Yeah, cool.
yeah, but the moon brews, those are really, so you can make them, you can customize it for your period, and you can also have them like leading up. So I really want to highlight motherwort for the luteal autumn phase is an amazing herb. Have you ever tried that one?
Yeah, I have, and I'm trying to think. I think I've had it in a in a tea that I purchased, and it was one of the ingredients in there.
Hmm.
Mm,
Yeah, I love that herb. It's called motherwort. It's called like the mother's herb. And I think of it for, when a mother that feels her nervous system on edge in that luteal phase of the cycle, it's that perfect remedy. It's a nervine,
mm,
so it helps calm your nerves, but it just really helps you get into that like grounded, calming state. So that's my favorite for the luteal phase. And then
lovely.
menstrual phase, I just like to do an intuitive mix of any sorts of menstrual amenagogue herbs. So red raspberry, rose, nettle, cinnamon is one of my go-tos. And if someone has a heavy period, like yarrow is a really, really amazing herb. Mugwort, which you mentioned you're
Mm,
drinking, that one is really good for anyone that has really painful periods for like the first 2 hours of their cycle or before they even start to bleed. Mugwort is
mm.
really good. But I love, yeah, making these nourishing herbal infusions. Like have a couple Instagram reels tutorials on how to do them too on my Instagram.
Cool. I have to check them
Mm-hmm.
out. You've just reminded me. I've got nettle and um, I think it might be red clover, but there's also
Mm-hmm.
raspberry tea leaf in here as well.
Yeah. Nettle and
And
raspberry,
maybe
that's
even
usually the
yarrow.
foundation
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that.
Like my brain just went blank when you asked me. I'm like, I can't actually remember. I don't think I even
Mm-hmm.
wrote it down. But yeah, lovely. I'm gonna check out
Mm-hmm.
Motherward as well. That sounds lovely. Like
Mm-hmm.
a really nice soothing one to have. Some beautiful recommendations. Thank you. And I love the sound of moon stew. Like, oh,
Yes.
it sounds so wintry, like teas and stews and rice
Mm-hmm.
puddings and just like, yum. I think
Yeah, it's
as
so
it
perfect.
gets
And then you
colder
can prep
here.
it. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
prep it in advance and just make up a big stew, and then that's all. Just have your brew and your moon stew, and you're set, good to go. Maybe just make up some chocolate or like some brownies, like some almond flour brownies, like something like that, and you're all set.
delicious. Sounds
Mhm.
beautiful. I bet you've got some really gorgeous recipes in your book. It sounds like a really good thing for people to have. So, Um, so I just want to touch on as well. One thing you've mentioned is like the importance of thinking about like egg health. Like
Mhm.
even if we're not, I think, there's a lot of focus on like if you're trying to conceive, then
Yes.
people are like, oh, egg health. Okay, that's a thing. But why do we want to be thinking about that regardless? Like even if we're not
Mhm.
trying to conceive.
Yes, I totally nerd out about this because it's so fascinating that your follicles take about 100 days to reach full maturity to get ready for ovulation. You go through this 100-day period, and what you eat during this time does make a difference in the quality of those eggs. And the egg that we ovulate is and those follicles, even those are producing like your estrogen in that first half of your cycle. And then when you ovulate, then the egg bursts, and then I like to say the shell around the egg. It might not be the best scientific term, but I like to think of it like that, as just it creates this temporary structure, what's left over, called the corpus luteum. And then that structure is what dictates the length of your luteal phase, and that is what produces your progesterone, unless you get pregnant and the placenta takes over eventually. But that's really important for it to be healthy. And for creating, like, you need to make sure your eggs are healthy to have proper hormone function. So even what you ate or the stress that you had even about 100 days ago or 2 months ago could impact the quality of your menstrual cycle now. And so we really want to focus on eating the right foods to nourish those eggs and then nourish that hormone production to have just better, more balanced menstrual cycles.
Mm. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
brilliant. Thank you. So it's not just about um it's not just, yeah, it's like we've got to look after the egg
Yeah.
because the egg then dictates everything, right?
Yeah,
Like all the
totally.
hormones for the whole
Yeah.
cycle and for that cycle and for future cycles. And then,
Yes. Yeah. Because that's
long
when we
term.
can get in, and that's when we can get into those issues of estrogen dominance or lack of progesterone. So if we
Mm,
don't produce enough progesterone during our cycle, then it can look different for many different people, but that could be more PMS. It could be a more heavier, more thicker endometrium lining leading to a heavier period. And then it could increase chances of cysts and fibroids and polyps, or could make more sore breasts. So
mm,
that balance of the progesterone and estrogen, we really want to do what we can to support it, like
mm,
100%. So
mm,
I do have a section in the low estrogen chapter, all about how to support egg quality as
mm,
well.
mm.
And I can share a little bit more about
Fascinating.
those nutrients too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, I think that like seafood, like from omega-3 is really important. That was something that came out of writing this book. I became such a believer in quality, like quality low mercury seafood into the diet for hormone health, because almost every single hormone that I was looking at, how to build the proper hormones, omega-3 was like behind every single hormone there. So
Mm,
really think that's important. Um, then the other thing that I love is like selenium, which you can get from different seafoods like shellfish or Brazil nuts. It can be good
mm,
sources too. And like zinc is really an important hormone mineral, which it's funny, everything comes down to shellfish and like liver. Those are usually like the nutrient dense sources when it comes to hormones. But you can still get it from other foods as well, like even legumes, like red meat, pumpkin seeds are really good sources of zinc. And
mm.
vitamin E is also super important. It's an antioxidant that is really, really key to get in the diet too. Like I like to get that through sunflower seeds. Squashes are actually really good sources, like winter squashes are excellent.
Mm.
And yes, sunflower seed butter is great. And then seafood like salmon and trout have really good sources of vitamin E as well.
Beautiful. So if someone's listening and they're like, how do I like what can I do that's quite simple and you know, just to get started, that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of foundational things that
Yes.
you can think about. So um what Madeline's just been sharing and then like deep diving into okay, so what am I actually experiencing and what
Mm-hmm.
do I need to support that? And that's where
Yes.
we can go into these types and then really look to nourish ourselves and correct those imbalances that we're might be experiencing through food. And then really quickly, like we don't have to put up with all these terrible,
Mm-hmm.
menstrual um experiences that's just so common.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
like we
It's
can really take
really,
charge.
it's so
Mm,
important to be empowered, and food just makes such a big, powerful difference in hormone health and menstrual health, just because of how all of our hormones are all built off of
mm,
nutrients. We need the right nutrients, and getting the foundations is really key. And one thing too that I hear a lot of, sometimes people will wonder, okay, so if I'm eating for my hormone type, what does that mean? I can only eat things from one chapter. And I designed the book to be like, if you can eat things from any chapter and it will give you that foundation for hormone balance. So you
mm,
can use it as a regular cookbook and just cook the recipes as you want. And then if you really want to hone in and focus, then you can really focus. So if you're struggling with estrogen dominance type symptoms, you can go into that chapter and pick the beet berry orange smoothie and have that every single morning or 3 mornings a week. So it's all about focusing. So I'm really not someone who's like super strict with everything, where like you need to eat like two, you know, two things
mm,
of sardines a week and just that's all you need to do, right? But I'm more
mm,
lenient in it. You have to find an approach that really works for you, and it could just be slowly adding things in or trying some recipes. And because food shouldn't have to be like anxiety inducing either. It's supposed to
mm,
be fun, and it's a nourishing experience.
mm. And I'm thinking about like with my family, I've got three small children who are like pretty fussy eaters. And I'm just imagining, um, like, this kind of like what you're talking about. It's nourishment, it's medicine for everyone, right? So, you could
Yes.
make these kind of things for everyone. It's not like you've got to have that as like your diet, your kind of, your medicine,
Yeah.
and then everyone else, like it's something that can be incorporated and do
Yes.
wonderful things for
I've
family
had a
health.
lot of people over the years ask me like, my husband eat these foods as well. Is it gonna mess up his hormones? I'm like, no, don't. You can still have it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
foundational.
food.
It'll be good for him. Hmm.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Amazing. I think it sounds so good. And like such an important resource and a really beautiful way of helping people who are struggling with something and they're not quite sure what. So get an idea of what that might be, and
Yes.
then take into their own hands, like, okay, like food's available. I can do this. I don't need to go and like access healthcare or specialists as such. Like they
Yeah.
can if they want to, but food is it's quite accessible.
Yeah.
And it can be like a really powerful way of taking this
Definitely.
into your life and making
Yeah.
longer term changes too.
And you can use it in tandem too if you are like working with a naturopath or another practitioner. If you're doing treatment for thyroid, like you can
Mm.
then choose to make the thyroid support recipes, or if someone is working with you on a supplement protocol. I think a lot of times where things can be missing working with certain like naturopaths and some even natural doctors is that they will tell you, okay, maybe go gluten-free, dairy-free, but then that's all. But then it's nice to have a resource of like, okay, what does that mean? And have some real like the what, or the how instead of
Mm.
the just the what can
Yeah.
be really a helpful resource too. And I've even added some meal plans in the back too, if someone's wondering what would a meal plan look like by eating this way too. So there's a menopause one and a thyroid adrenal. And then we do have some cycle meal plans. There's a follicular or first half, and then there's a luteal meal plan as well at the back.
Amazing. It just sounds like a one-stop
Mhm.
shop. This sounds great.
Yeah,
I love what you
totally.
said there as well. Like, okay, so I know I need to make these changes, but like, oh my God, the overwhelm of what does that actually look like and how do I actually do that? And
Hmm.
what do I need to buy? And like you're just
Yes.
making it easy.
Yeah, and I really wanted to make it like the accessible ingredients too, because I
Mm,
saw just that was a problem for a lot of people, like getting a really healthy cookbook. And then it's like, how are you going to source everything? So most of the ingredients can be sourced at a health food or just your grocery store, just your regular grocery store.
mm.
And then I do have some fun like elixir and tonic recipes where you can just get different herbs, because I had to add that in because that's my thing as well. But the majority is these like really easy recipes that you can just get from your grocery store.
Amazing. So the hot question, where can we get your book? It's called the Hormone Type Cookbook. So where can we actually get it from?
Mm-hmm. The book is available worldwide. So if you go to naturalhormonehealing.com/book, I have a list of where you can get it from different countries. It's
Mm.
like Australia. Book Depository is great. Someone got it from there yesterday. I was really happy to know that it went to Australia. So, and then if you are in Europe or somewhere, you can just search your local Amazon, your local bookstore, and in even a lot of independent bookstores, you can get it too. If you just search, you should be able to pre-order it or just order it
Brilliant.
and get it shipped already.
Yeah. Amazing. That I'll put all the links
Yeah.
in the show notes to your website, and I've got your socials as well. So go check out Madeline on Instagram because she's sharing like heaps of really important, useful, like easy to understand information as well, like breaking this down. And I really enjoyed what she's putting out there. So she's at Natural Hormone Healing on
Mhm.
Instagram. Thank you so much. Is there anything that you would like to just leave people with as like if you could share one thing, like one thing that people you'd
Mm.
like them to know?
Oh, yeah. Well, the most important thing is that you can eat to support your hormone health, and it can actually be delicious and nourishing and enjoyable, and you're going to feel also so much better when you're eating for hormone balance too, because of the impact it has on energy and mood. So I just want to encourage everyone to check it out and start learning it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was really fun.
It was. I love chatting with you. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening in. If you're loving this podcast and you'd love to help me spread the wisdom shared, please leave a review or rating or share this with somebody who you think would love to listen in. I'm really passionate about creating ripples of change and getting this information to more women, girls, and people with a cycle so that they can reclaim their cyclic natures too. And if you'd love to dive in deeper with learning more about how to connect with your cycle and rites of passages, come and join our free Wild Flow Circle community, or choose a course and learn with me on my online learning hub. All the links are in the show notes. And until next time, be well and go with the flow of your cyclic nature.